How many of you know how drugs are discovered? Well, how medicines, regular medicines that you buy in a pharmacy, how scientists discover them. Nobody. Okay, so that's going to be pretty educational for everybody, because we're going to talk about many subjects that are dear to my heart and probably to your heart as well. That is longevity and drug discovery, so pharmaceutical industry. And also, well, think about how to build the pharmaceutical industry here in Saudi. Because, there is not a single drug that I know of that has been ever discovered and developed in Saudi for the world. And there are actually very, very few countries that can claim that they have discovered a therapeutic and put it out for everybody to consume and live longer. However, AI can really help you do that in an expedited way because many areas of drug discovery can be accelerated. But at the end of the day, nowadays, we are focused very much on treating diseases and instead of thinking about how to fundamentally extend human life. And today, what I'm going to talk about is how to do both. Look at how to discover therapeutics that are effective against disease and also in the most credible way, extend healthy, productive longevity for all people on the planet and possibly kickstart the pharmaceutical industry here in Saudi. I will have a lot of slides, so if you feel slide sick, please forgive me. And I might not have enough time for questions, so that's why my contact information is on this slide. Since I also run in silico medicine, I need to make those disclaimers, no forward-looking statements, not an investment advice. And also, I must say that I started my career in IT originally. So about 20 years ago, I was in semiconductor business. I was managing a semiconductor business unit that was focused primarily on GPU. Those are the semiconductors that are powering deep neural networks today. But once I made a little bit of money, I realized in my early 20s that the most important asset that you have is not the money, it's the time. And currently, you can make money by spending time, but it's almost impossible to make time by spending money. How do we reverse that? And I decided to dedicate the rest of my life to studying aging and figuring out how to make people live longer. So I don't own pretty much any material assets. I don't own a home. Everything that I do is dedicated to longevity research. And I try to support as many projects in this area as possible. So for the past 18 years, I've been educating myself and the others on how to get into longevity research in the most productive way. And actually, everybody here in this room can contribute to the movement in one way or another. And many of you are extremely intelligent people, so you will be able to learn and hopefully contribute to this industry. So why longevity? So it's actually very often misperceived as being a very egoistic initiative. So why do you want to live longer, right? Oh, why are you so snobby that you want to live longer? Well, today I'm going to talk about the fundamental problem of nature. And the fundamental problem of nature is that you grow, you reproduce, you compete, you reach your peak, and after that you gradually decline and die. And death is inevitable. Regardless of what we do in longevity, it will catch up with you one day or another. But I would rather die a very old man in a young body than continuously lose and decline. And unfortunately, there is very few things that we can do today, and actually in the near future, if we try going after prevention, ultra-optimization, so diet, exercise, sleep, you deprive yourself of every human pleasure, and also go on drugs for prevention. Yes, you might marginally extend your life, you might extend the quality of life, but you will still die. But the question is, can we have a dream for a second where we continuously improve? So we don't stop. We will die, but imagine that you can go on a path of continuous improvement with an age without losing and maybe even gain. Great dream. So that's what I really would like to achieve one day, one day our species will be there. Maybe it's not going to be us, but it's a great dream to contribute to. And also I wanted to say that extending productive longevity is likely to be the most altruistic and impactful cause anyone can pursue. Why? There is actually a term in healthcare economics called QALY, quality adjusted life years. That's a year of life in the optimal state of health. So very often we try to quantify pretty much everything in QALYs. So you do some action and you look at how many QALYs you can gain from that action. So a good surgeon, a great surgeon, during their career may generate maybe 20,000 quality adjusted life years by quote unquote saving lives. So you extend life of a person by delaying their time of death. So if you come up with a drug that everybody can take and it extends the life of every person on the planet by 1 year, you generate 8 billion QALYs. So if somebody up there is counting, that's a big contribution to mankind you can make if you create 8 billion QALYs. There are drugs that are currently in clinical trials and are actually marketed drugs that have the potential to add 3, 4, 5 years of life to everybody on the planet already today. We just don't know whether they work on humans or not. Clinical trials are on the way. And you can discover therapeutics that actually have dual purpose. They target disease and aging at the same time and might give you 2 or 3 or 4 QALYs. And that's billions of life years over time that you can contribute to the society. So if you want to be fundamentally good, extending life by just 1 year for everybody on the planet, that will make you, really altruistic. So that's why I'm extremely, extremely excited that Saudi Arabia and His Royal Highness MBS prioritized longevity as a national priority. So you cannot imagine how happy I was to see those news, because you're probably the only country that managed to actually prioritize it openly, because it's actually fundamentally good for everybody. I wrote a Forbes piece on that, so if you're interested in how longevity contributes to you being an altruistic person, you can read this article. Also, when we are thinking about complete elimination of individual diseases, we very often misunderstand the impact of many of those therapeutics that are coming to the market. So there are many, many studies. I have not published this paper. It comes from a study in 2006 showing how a complete elimination of a single disease will impact life expectancy in the United States. So here, we are very focused on cancer, right? So everybody's talking cancer, 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 or Alzheimer's, Alzheimer's, Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's actually is a big problem. But cancer, if you completely eliminate it, if there is no cancer, people don't get it. At birth, you will gain 2.3 years of life to life expectancy in the United States. 1.2 years of life at age 65, because at that time, people already survived to 65. So without cancer, even if they get cancer, they still can live for a substantial amount of time. Something else will kill you. So that's why focusing on dual-purpose therapeutics, going after disease, but also affecting the fundamental pathways of aging, is probably the most credible and impactful way to develop the pharmaceutical industry. Because again, just by complete elimination of cancer, you get 2.3 years of life. Actually, during COVID in 2021, the US lost 1.6 years in life expectancy, which is pretty dramatic, right? So like having another cancer. So, but what is the most credible and sustainable way to research and commercialize longevity? Since the dawn of human civilizations, all kinds of shamans and magicians and alchemists were trying to push the idea to the ultra-wealthy and the powerful of this world, trying to sell the idea of life extension. And that was snake oil. So that's why this industry has very poor reputation. Actually, in China, very often when you talk about longevity, people immediately associate with fraud. So how do you make it credible? So to answer this question, about 10 years ago, I started the conference series called the Aging Research and Drug Discovery Meeting. Originally, we started in Basel in Switzerland. That's the heart of big pharmaceutical industry. That's where Roche and Novartis are headquartered. 100,000 people in just one city, and they are responsible for maybe 20% of the drugs that you are taking. So pretty cool, right? So we tried to bring all the top pharmaceutical industry executives, top academics, together with venture capitalists and company builders, together to discuss how do we do this. So now this conference moved to the University of Copenhagen. This year it was about 400 people on site and maybe about few thousand, 3,000 people online discussing this as a 5-day event. I actually highly encourage you to go there next year in person or dial in virtually, because that's where pharmaceutical industry meets the top academics. Actually, here I must highlight, we've got Dr. Mahmoud Khan, the CEO of Hivolution, the most wonderful initiative, I think, here in Saudi Arabia, designed for healthy, productive lifespan increases. And he gave a talk at this meeting, and that talk was moving. So it's like John F. Kennedy talking about the Moonshot Project, talking about longevity and drug discovery. So I highly recommend going to this meeting next year. We do it with the University of Copenhagen, it's 100% nonprofit. And now I'm going to switch gears and talk about AI and how AI can help you address the aging process. Well, first of all, you probably have seen these pictures many times over. So in 2017, there were several breakthroughs in artificial intelligence. One was in transformer neural networks and also in generative adversarial networks. So those people who you see on this picture do not exist. And that's 2017. So today, AI, so transformer models, generative adversarial networks, diffusion models, can produce really, really realistic pictures of people, but also, of course, beautiful art, and anything that you can describe in words can now be depicted in a picture. In biological data, something that is not a person, something that is not imaging, something that you cannot see, like gene expression, blood tests, medical imaging, you can do the same thing. So AI can work with data that you do not understand as a human. For AI is the same thing. You train it on a huge data sets, and it can generate your digital twins. And the beauty of aging is that that is the single feature, so age, that everybody has. Not everybody has a diabetes here. Not everybody has Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. Maybe we will never get it, but everybody has age. And if you treat age as a stage of some biological process, you can train AI to predict it. And that's one of the features that is retained even in synthetically generated objects, in synthetically generated humans. And in 2014, I got a really cool idea. So that was, I published many research papers on that and peer-reviewed journals, to use deep neural networks with many, many neurons on the input layer and just one neuron on the output layer predicting age with many neurons, layers of neurons in between, training on many different data types, something that is very as trivial as pictures, so something that you have seen, but also on biological data types like proteomics, methylation, transcriptomics, blood tests. You can even train those networks on survey data coming from populational psychological surveys to understand human psychology and build psychological aging clocks. And we've published on that as well. Once you train those deep neural networks on those biological types, data types together, they learn fundamental human biology in time. So we all change in time. Deep neural networks, they do not forget unless you want them to, and they can be also interpretable. So now you can ask the deep neural network which individual feature makes you younger or older, which one is participating in a specific biological process. So you can now interpret them and turn it into biological pathways and what we call protein targets, what we can target, specific proteins that we can inhibit or upregulate with small molecules, with chemistry, and intervene in some basic biological processes that are implicated in aging and disease at the same time. So we started using this technology originally to build aging clocks, predictors of age. So without knowing your age, I can get a data type, your picture, your blood test, your gene expression profile, your biopsy, and from that data, predict your age. And we've built many of those. We've built 22 aging clocks on pretty much every data type that changes in time. And we decided to start commercializing that, selling that to that service, software as a service, to insurance companies, to clinics, and started working on a philosophy where we use that for preventative medicine. So some of the companies like Human Longevity in San Diego, San Francisco, and Beijing is deploying those aging clocks to work with, well, currently they work with high net worth clients to predict age, see what might be adjusted to make you biologically younger, so being predicted younger than your chronological age, and they came up with an idea of a longevity physician. So those are physicians that are trained on AI and utilizing aging clocks and using already some experimental interventions that you can give to patients in addition to exercise, diet, and sleep. Everybody can use that, right? But there are also already some very primitive therapeutic interventions that are reasonably safe, and you can become the venture capitalist of your life. You can basically calculate the risk and return for yourself working with a physician. And here is Evelyn Biskup, Dr. Evelyn Biskup, who is actually probably one of the most advanced longevity physicians working with ultra high net worth individuals globally to try to adjust their lifestyle and drug regimens using those AI aging clocks. Actually, we also launched a course series, free course series, CME accredited. So actually, if you want to get into this field and learn as a physician or actually as an individual, it doesn't require much training. You can go to this longevity.degree and take Longevity Medicine 101 course. It's 2.7 hours, explains all the fundamentals of longevity medicine. You can take it in Chinese. So that's one of the initiatives that I support. It's a volunteer initiative, but about 6,000 physicians over the course of 1 year registered and started taking those courses and practicing it. So now I'm going to switch gears to what I'm expert in and what I'm focusing on at InSilico and Deep Longevity is generative reinforcement learning. So when this technology emerged in 2014 to 2016, we started applying it to many areas of healthcare, end-to-end. So the company that is spun off out of InSilico and sold to a listed company called Deep Longevity is focusing on biological age prediction and also behavioral health and psychological age prediction as well, and also different well-being optimization techniques, collaborates with many different companies, including insurance companies. But InSilico is utilizing this technology pretty much across every spectrum of drug discovery and development. So we are the MMA fighter of AI-powered drug discovery. You can look us up. We're one of the top people in the world in this. But we are also, again, I'm almost religiously focused on aging research and longevity. So I'm always looking for how to solve a disease, but at the same time, how to address aging at the same time. So we're looking for dual-purpose therapeutics targeting aging and disease at the same time. So a little bit about the company that I've built. We started originally in 2014 in the US and then scaled globally. So we are over 250 scientists, mostly AI and drug discovery, but we also rely on a huge network of contract research organizations. So in addition to our own labs, we also distribute the workload to contract research organizations that do biological and chemical research on contract for you. As a matter of fact, now the biopharmaceutical industry has changed in a very similar way the IT industry changed in the early 2000s, where you got designed in California, made in China paradigm, right? So you don't need to have your own factory to build a PC or a laptop or a mobile device. Now you can design anywhere you like in the world and make it in China. So in biopharma is the same thing now. So you can design your drug, your hypothesis, anywhere you like, here in Saudi, using AI, and then generate the chemical matter in China, tested in animals in China or the US or in many, many other contract research organizations, and get to the level where you can start human clinical trials. And even those you can do using contract research organizations. So now you can be, as an AI company, you can be a software layer on top of the many, many contract research organizations. And that's what we are. So we are, of course, pretty famous in AI. So NVIDIA, we're a top AI company, top 100 CB Insights since 2018, including this year. But we changed in 2020 from being an AI first and AI only company to being an AI powered biotech. And that requires a completely different set of expertise. So originally we focused on high performance computing and generative AI for chemistry and biology. So that's me. We built the engine. And then when we decided to go into biotech, I had to go and partner with somebody who has done it all before, PhD from Harvard, 11 years at GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, and then he developed a company called Medicillin, publicly traded, listed it, took it to $8 billion valuation, and then he joined my company as a co-CEO. And he built a team of drug hunters in Asia, but also around the world. So we have over 120 people who come from big pharmaceutical companies, mostly PhDs or MDs, and their job is to identify novel targets using AI, and then use AI to generate novel chemistry and put it into clinic. So, because that's where the major value is for any biotech. It's in the pipeline of therapeutic development. So this is us. And you can see that we are very dedicated to making people live longer and better. We also managed to fundraise in the most credible way from some of the most credible investors in the world, including some of the top biotech investors. And great thanks to Aramco and Prosperity 7. They led our Series D2 round, which was our latest round. But of course, we predominantly focus on healthcare, and we rely on healthcare investors to help us. We raised over 400 million to date. This is the most important slide if you are not familiar with drug discovery. So if you are to take just one thing away from today, this is the slide to take a picture of and put it in your bedroom for reference, or any other room that you frequent the most. This is how drugs are discovered. So coming from a very famous paper in 2010, now drug discovery became even more expensive. So it starts with disease hypothesis, where you formulate the hypothesis about the disease, and then you narrow it down to individual protein target. Usually it's done in academic institutions. So professors somewhere, they basically say, oh, okay, Alzheimer's happens because of that, and because of this specific protein. Or cancer happens because of this specific protein. Very often they use massive amounts of longitudinal data to find those ideas and then test them. And then pharmaceutical companies pick that, and that's target to hit, and take it all the way to commercialization. So using many, many steps. So some of those steps, you see the probability of success here. So from 1 to 5% on target discovery, that's where most of the stuff fails. So target discovery is very risky. And then you take it all the way into chemistry, biology, validate, and then take it into human clinical trials. And you can see in phase 2, you still fail 66% of the time. So if it's a molecular casino, it's basically tailored for you to lose every time. And here is the number of years. Usually it's 12 years for the drug to reach the market. So right now, if we decide to, say, shake hands on discovering a novel therapeutic for dual purpose, aging and disease, you are likely to see it on the market. Well, with AI, we can accelerate. I'm going to show you a case study how to do this. But you're likely to see it on the market in a decade for a disease. And then if you want to purpose it towards aging, it's even longer. So now think about it on your own life timeline. You know, it's not going to be fast, right? So we decided to use AI to try to accelerate every part of drug discovery. And before we went this way, right, we decided to map out the every step that usually a pharmaceutical company or biotechnology company would take at every one of those stages. and looked at how long would it take for the most agile biopharmaceutical company to complete those steps. And then we looked at which steps can be accelerated and improved with AI. So this is also a golden slide because we looked at which data is useful for drug discovery, which algorithms can be used to accelerate, and how they can they connect. You have all heard about AlphaFold, right? So DeepMind is great at PR. And of course, it's a big breakthrough. So they figured out how to fold proteins from sequence, right? How to get crystal structures. But here you can, on the slides, you can see obtain crystal structure. It's one of the steps. And actually, usually, experimentally, it's not exactly very difficult. A few weeks plus $80,000, and you get your crystal. So it's not a huge bottleneck for drug discovery. It's the rest of the pieces of the puzzle that are causing the delays and that are extremely costly. So usually, there are two types of AI companies in our field. People who are discovering the targets using different techniques, and then they in-license the therapeutics to do clinical trials. Or there are companies that are doing purely chemistry, AI-designed molecules. So what we decided to do at Insilico, we decided to do both and also connect many, many steps of AI-powered drug discovery together with AI. Originally, when we started, most of the healthcare, credible healthcare investors and the partners were telling us, okay, we're not going to touch you because it's too grand of a goal. So we cannot do this. No pharmaceutical company can do this. Why do you think that you can do this? And we decided to still pursue this grand goal and focus on many things, many areas of drug discovery. And now you can actually buy the software. So we are providing software to the market. So PandaOmics allows you to discover targets. It's so simple that the high school student can use it. And they've used it, and they presented at my conferences and other conferences. So now AI can enable high school students to discover protein targets in a variety of diseases at the level of a professor. Now, Chemistry 42, 9 out of the top 30 pharmaceutical companies have used it in one way or another. Many of them are using it to design novel chemistry with the desired properties. So you use AI imagination to design molecules with the desired properties. Instead of looking for a needle in a haystack, you design perfect needles. And our grant project is a program called InClinico, which will hopefully predict the outcomes of clinical trials at some point in time. So now I'm going to talk about, let me do a quick time check. I'm almost done with time. So I'm going to go through many, many slides very quickly. And through one case study that is very dear to my heart. You are not exactly familiar with drug discovery, so many of those slides you will not understand. I'll have to skip them. So we have a philosophy that we published in a peer-reviewed journal on how to use AI to identify targets that are implicated in both aging and disease. So we took massive databases of aging data and disease data, came up with lists of promising therapeutic targets, looked at the risk profiles of every one of those targets. So basically, we created a wheel, target wheel, which gives you high confidence targets, medium confidence targets, high drugability, medium drugability, and then decided to go after a grand challenge. Can we go after a novel target with a novel molecule out of AI for a broad disease with no cure associated with aging? We decided to go after IPF, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, but in general after fibrotic diseases. It's a big market, even though it's a hugely rare disease, $3 billion. And here is a slide which shows how we did our study. So we started with a deep learning engine trained on aging and disease at the same time, identified promising targets from that engine, put it in a biological context, look at how novel the targets are, and prioritize risk profiles for those targets. We were left with 20 targets for validation. We could validate 5. All 5 worked experimentally all the way into mice. And then we prioritized one, which we are not announcing the name. It's a new target, so the name wouldn't tell you anything, completely out of AI, and validated it in lung fibrosis, liver fibrosis, skin fibrosis, and kidney fibrosis. We also used our own chemistry engine to generate novel chemical matter. So this slide basically shows that we synthesized very few compounds with the desired properties and achieved really high potent inhibition of the target X. Then we also performed many, many experiments, putting mice in cages, measuring lung function after inducing fibrosis injury by other drugs and comparing to the current best-in-class. Demonstrated that we outperform today's best-in-class drugs 5 and 16-fold in some very established biological assays. Then we came up with many, many, many different assays, validation assays, experimental assays, to show that the drug is effective in multiple models and also safe. And to my knowledge, we've managed to set a record to go from target discovery to preclinical candidate in record time, in 17 months. Then we completed multiple experiments in toxicity and went into phase 1 human clinical trials. So right now, humans are taking this drug, healthy volunteers. Very large clinical study. We also did a smaller one in between called phase 0. And to my knowledge, again, we set a record. And we've managed to demonstrate that out of AI, I can identify novel target, generate novel molecules, perform all the preclinical and clinical enabling stage experiments, do a small phase 0 study, and now we're in phase 1. So, but still, it's a few years away from the market. But still, it shows you that a company like us can do it. It means that a country like Saudi Arabia can do it too. Now with my AI tools as well. Now I have 31 therapeutic programs. Here are some of the ones that I can talk about. And we've managed to deliver 8 preclinical candidates since 2021 February. Again, to my knowledge, that's pretty record-setting. And now we are trying to accelerate it using robotics. We don't have the time for the video, I guess, right? But you can watch it online on our website. We are now investing very heavily in robotics to accelerate what we have been doing using human intelligence and human power by robots at a very large scale. So I'm going to be here for a few days. Please come and talk to us. We're expanding in the Middle East as well. We're currently in Abu Dhabi, setting up a pretty substantial AI center and accepting a lot of digital refugees, so to speak, from Eastern Europe, setting up an AI-powered research center there, but maybe we will also come here and work in Saudi, because again, thanks to the vision of His Royal Highness MBS, you guys are focused on longevity now. And that gives me great pleasure, because that's what I live for. And I think that everybody here should appreciate the gravity of what your government is doing. So deep bow to everybody, and thank you very much. I'll be here to answer questions.